usually like we try to keep a team calm, but tomorrow I will not be calm. Like I think you need to calm everyone down when we play, and we'll win. It'll be easier. And it was like, I'll try. Like, oh, this like sucked. This was like easily one of the hardest things like I had to do for sure. I feel like pretty robbed that event. I feel like that lineup. I think I made a bad decision changing the lineup after that event.
First of all, let's talk about Malta and let's talk about his impact on the team. And the first time you guys qualify for an international event, and it's actually very quickly after Malta gets brought into the team. It's you guys qualify for the ESL Pro League Season 16 conference. And I specifically watched back that qualification moment. And this is also where that interview that I was talking about earlier kind of came into play. And I watched back that moment. I think it was Dust 2, right? You guys were retaking the B bomb site. And I think you had like a 4v2 advantage or a 3v2 advantage or something like that. And it goes down to a 1v1, right? It's PZ in a 1v1 and he actually wins it. But if he doesn't win that, it was like a close map or something. And it was like, oh shit. So could have been another one of these moments. But talk to me about qualifying for your first international event, specifically as well with the context that you did it with players like Roflko and PZ, who had been so sort of influential in your career, that you'd been playing together for such a long time. You'd kind of come from nothing together to now being in one of the top teams in ANZ and qualifying to play overseas. So what was this like?
Yeah, no, that was insane. I was like, I don't know. I was like, oh, it's just such a happy movie. I was so high of play. Even like sometimes like for a game, like I just rewatch it. It just makes me happy. It's like we're gonna fucking do it, bro. But yeah, this is like a pretty like insane match. It was our first tournament. Like we played like that tournament through with Liam. And I think confidence was really high on our team. Like we thought like we always had well, speaking for myself, I felt like the team always felt like we were like strategically like a bit stronger than the other teams. But now we felt like we had like the individuals who were like really like stepping up and playing really well. And I felt like everyone felt comfortable playing at that time. Like just like everyone's spots felt really good. Like for the most parts, like I think I was playing a lot of sites with Liam. I mean, I think me and Liam instantly like were very comfortable playing with each other from like the first day. And I think on T side, like a lot of like the stuff we were doing was just like working like really well. But that I think we beat Order the first time, and we'd never actually been like come through the upper bracket. I think we beat Order the first time, and then the next game we replay. I think we played Mirage in Dust 2, if I remember. And I think that Dust 2 game, like the second half, it was like win loss for like 8 rounds or something. It was insane. And then I remember that like that 4v2, because everyone's like no one's called for like an event like this before. Even like Apocdud, even though it's been playing for ages. So like even he's hyped, everyone's freaking out other than Liam.
Yeah.
And I remember the day before I messaged Liam, I was like, Liam, I know like usually like we try to keep a team calm, but tomorrow I will not be calm. Like I think you need to calm everyone down when we play, and we'll win. It'll be easier. And it's like I'll try. Like let's do it. But yeah, I think in that game, I actually think we did play like really well. But specifically in that 4v2, we definitely like freaked out a little bit. I mean, Jordy's just always been that clutch player for us. So like he always comes through from the start. I think has been as good as at clutching as he is now, and I still think he's an incredible clutcher. So like when we knew Jordy was last alive, we were like, oh, thank God, bro. Thank God it's not me. Like I do not want to be in this 1v1 at this moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was like Tuxin someone, and we always had like a big round. But yeah, it was a pretty big series. But yeah, just before that, like bringing in like Liam for that tournament, I think it wasn't just that. I didn't think Liam brought like a ton to us, other than like CT. He started playing a lot of like the he was playing like anchor spots on some maps, but on like Inferno and Vertigo, he was like the A guy on Vertigo, and he was the B guy on Inferno. And I think that just made us like 10 times better at those maps. Like me and Liam, we would just like 2-man take banana like every round before like teams knew what we're doing. We would do literally the same thing every round, and we just have really good reactions, and we just talk about it. And like just having like CT banana every round on Inferno, for example, it's like gonna like bolster that map like so much for us. It was the same thing with Vertigo. He was like really good at the A ramp. But yeah, it was also like we got a lot of confidence from the stuff we were doing before. Liam's like, nah, like that's good. Like this is like good. So like I think we got a bit more confident in ourselves, just like having Liam on the team, even though it sounds like kind of like dumb. Like now I've been playing for like with Liam for ages. Like it sounds weird to say for me.
Mm.
But we would like it was like, yeah, like this round is good. It was like fucking like Malta said that, that's hype. Like let's do it.
Hell yeah,
Like
let's go.
and it was also just like having reads we had on like order, just like confirming some of them, and there was some like Liam was really good at reading the context of the games against like these like AU teams, and I think he still is. But and then yeah, we just like started reading into the context like a lot more against like order, for example. Like we always used to like be able to double call and just win. I think we even used it to win Mirage in that qualifying game. I think it was like OT round 1. We called like a fast A exec where we're like running with the entries are running as the smokes are going.
Mm.
And we just get like booked. And I'm like, fuck it. Like we do it again. Like run it back. And then next round there's like no one A, there's like 2 mid and there's like 3 B. Um and it's just like a lot of stuff like that
Yep.
where we felt like we could beat AU teams specifically a lot better.
The
With
mind
him.
games
Yep.
playing out in your
Yeah,
favor.
my games.
All right, so let's talk about the winning moment. Okay, the hype moment. Because the reason I want to ask you this is because you mentioned earlier that you were living with YourWombat at the time, or you are, or well, he's in India at the moment. But anyway, you guys have been living together for a little while. But he's not actually on the team at this point. But he's like, I would almost argue like he's more pumped than you are when you win that, because I remember watching him like burst into your room like he's wearing a Vertex jersey, you know, he's like fucking hugging you and like hyping up and stuff like that. So what I want to know is, because inevitably you go overseas and he actually goes as your coach, you know, so did he know at the time that if you guys won that he would be going, like, was he hyped for you or was he hyped for him, is my question basically.
Will was sick. Will was hyped for me for sure. I think because he was playing on DGG at the time, I think we
Mm.
both knew how much work we were putting in. Um if I'm not mistaken, he was calling, I was calling. And we're both like we're sharing ideas like a lot. I actually think I've gotten like a lot from Will.
Mm.
Um, sorry, your mama. And I think I'd like to think he's taken like some things from me as well. And I think it's just like really good. It's just like a fun thing to talk about as well, you know, like we're really passionate about it.
Yeah.
Um, but so because we won the upper bracket game, DGG had to play against Order, and then Order had to play against us if they won, or like DGG would play against us.
Right.
And like the joke was in the living room, it's like, all right, we're not fucking letting Order win. We're both going to Europe if we qual. Like that was the idea.
Right.
So it's like I would go with them. Obviously, I probably wouldn't have actually gone, but that was a joke. But like, Will would have come with us if
Yep.
we won.
So
Um,
he knew that he was getting a
yeah.
trip overseas.
But the crazy thing was, I don't think a lot of people would remember this series, but DGG versus Order, DGG should have won, but Vexite like had like one of the best games I've ever seen someone play. It was insane. I think he had like 50 kills on like a Vertigo overtime map,
Mm-hmm.
or it felt like it at least. It was like something insane. And then was just like, he was like pretty sad after he lost. And I was like, bro, for sure we gassed Vexite out. Like you guys are on for sure.
Yep.
um, yeah, so I think he knew like actually like he was coming, but I think he's just like a really good friend, and his friends of like not just me, but he's also like really good friends with like Jordy and like other people on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I think it was a sick experience being able to bring him over
Mm.
as well. So, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it
I
was
mean, I've
cool.
spoken to him a few times. Obviously, I think he's really good person to talk to. And you know, I actually I don't envy necessarily, but I think what you guys actually have as housemates, both people playing like Counter Strike and like coming up in this ecosystem together, is actually quite enviable. It is enviable because you obviously have someone that you can always like bounce ideas off. You guys always presume sort of talking about stuff a lot and stuff like that. I think it would be really cool to sort of share that with someone. So I just thought that was a really nice moment when he jumped into your room and was hyped up just for you guys as well. So I wanted to sort of talk about that. But anyway, let's talk. You know, you guys obviously achieve basically the goal that any ANZ player would be striving for, right? It's always this discussion around, okay, well, you know, being the best in ANZ is cool, competing in ANZ is nice, but everyone wants to go and play overseas. So the next step is then going and playing overseas. And this is your first interaction, I suppose, with international Counter-Strike. You go over to the ESL Pro League conference and you just got fucked. You went 0-4. You lost to Falcons
Failed.
Esports and Illuminar Gaming. which is like, you know, like Falcons Esports, Illuminati Gaming, they're okay, but like they're not even close to tier 1 CS teams. So what was this like as far as like a, I don't know, was it a wake up call necessarily, or was it was it an awakening moment? And actually, the more interesting question I actually have with this is obviously Malta had a lot of experience playing overseas prior. So he played against teams that were even better than these ones. Did he sort of say anything to you guys and say like, okay, just like be ready for a bit of a wake up call, because like these teams are a lot better than what we would be used to facing? Did you ever have anything like that? Any sort of pre notion of what might be coming?
Um, I think for first, like, important context as well, is this wasn't like the first time we were playing international LAN. This is the first time we were playing like LAN,
Hmm.
uh, in
That's
general. Like,
important too, I guess. Yeah.
I even think it was like it's like way different playing with in-ears than playing like I would definitely like I'm like never gonna play a LAN without screaming on in-ears for like the next like week for sure.
Right.
I think some of us like we definitely got some like new technology to make it easier. I think yeah, I even saw we have like this sound amp
Mm-hmm.
which like makes sound in your in-ears louder. I saw Twist using it yesterday as well. Um but yeah, so like we go into boot camp and before that we basically killed the order um by winning.
Mm.
Um, like they'd been like I don't know getting like mixed results for a long time, but we, like I'm pretty sure like we just killed the team. Like they got dropped because of that. Um, and then we kind of knew we had like a rough idea. Like Vexite asked to join us before the event, and
Mm.
we're like we couldn't make the change then.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't fair to anyone. We wouldn't even. It was another one where it's like obviously like we would want to get Vexite, but like we wouldn't know who to like cut at the
Yeah.
time. So we go into the boot camp. We did like a 10-day boot camp, or maybe it was a little bit longer, but we did like a 10-day boot camp in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was really cool. It was just like, again, it was like for all of us, other than Liam, we were like so hyped. Like we got to scrim like Navi and like the best teams. And in the boot camp, the difference between playing against like the tier 1 teams and like the tier 2 or tier 3 teams was like kind of surprising. We would do like okay. Like, it's scrims, so, like, it doesn't really, like, I don't know. It's not the same, but, like, we would, like, be doing, like, way better against, like, the tier 1 teams. And it was a pretty big confidence boost, like, with, like, scrim, like, Navi one day, and then they're, like, the next day, they just, like, offer us for, like, 4 maps. It's
Mm-hmm.
happened, like, a fair few times we've gone over it in Europe. Like, we'll scrim a team, like, they'll test us, and then be like, "Yeah, let's, like, scrim them a lot." Um, and would do, like, okay against, like, the tier 1 teams, but whenever we'd practice against the like tier 3 teams would just get fucking rolled. Like it was insane. Like I've never been stomped this hard. We're just getting like 25-5, like 20-10, like every game. And it's like there was a team on Vertigo, for example. They like never smoked ramp. All they do is just they like pick a timing and there's a 3-2-1, two rifles just swing and they just like kill like our two A players every round.
Mm.
Um, and it was like really tough. I think individually, um, we weren't very good at that. Like we weren't going for kills, but we'd just be dying anyway. Like we wouldn't know how to like
Mm.
non-committal like hold info on map control, or like even just like know how to like not feed to like common AWP picks. I think some people didn't know like what was like meta and like what picks were like coming from. Um, but going into the LAN, like we kind of knew there was like everyone kind of understood that like there's a decent chance and the bootcamp, there's a decent chance like there'll be a roster change after,
Mm.
and it kind of it sucks because we're like such good friends, but I think whoever performed the worst was definitely like unfortunately gonna get cut for Vexite because it was like if we don't get Vexite, then Encore get Vexite, and then we won't beat Encore.
Mm.
But if we get Vexite, we'll become a lot better.
Mm.
Um, and we like Liam, like I don't know, there's only so much you can do, in terms of, like improving a team. I think the thing which sucks was we kind of just like we knew we were gonna get fucked in the event, so we changed some spots like right before. Like 3 days or 4 days before the event, I think I changed like the guy taking map control in T side. So I was like, we're just getting picked like every round. It's been like a week, like people aren't improving. Um, like we have to change or we're just getting like whacked in the event. And then I think the first game we played, we had like pretty good anti on Falcons. But we were kind of like just making like really bad like decisions like no one would ever make in like if it was a scrim or if it was in Australia. Like there was a round where it's like they run the same like force buy like literally every time we played. Like they're not these guys aren't like super good teams, so like they don't have as much variation.
Mm.
And like we know they're gonna do like a like a certain round on Inferno. And then the round comes and like we lose to it, even though like we're perfect set up for it. Like one of the anchors like just like basically a pit player just like ran towards like Modo like randomly and just gets shot in the side of the head. Like the pit player stays in pit.
Yep.
Like you go mini pit or big pit, like you
Yep.
do not run to Modo in the middle of
Yeah.
an execute. But there was a lot of stuff like that. We lost to Falcons, and then the next day, we just lost to Illumina. I think we picked Nuke against him because it's been a big trap. Our Nuke's really good in scrims, sometimes, and it used to be good in matches for us. But I think for the last like year, our Nuke hasn't been super good.
Mhm.
Um, like just in terms of when we're actually playing in matches, like we're not doing well.
Mm.
Then we like lose to Illumina, and then it kind of sucks. I do think though everyone got a lot. We learned so much from that boot camp compared to the event. The events like we did really bad. But like we learned so much from that boot camp, and we kind of all brought that back to Australia,
Mm.
and it was pretty good.
I mean, I guess the
Yeah,
thing is, right? You play like you go and you play two best of threes basically, and then actually really where the value is the 10 days of how many scrims you're playing. I don't know. Probably you're trying to jam as many in as possible, and do whatever 8 hours of scrims a day or something like that. I would assume, but
that's pretty psycho. We're scrimming like I think we were scrimming too much to be honest,
mm.
and it was kind of a little bit of it was like I was like I'm not gonna say no to an Australia scrim.
For sure,
Like
yeah,
really, I'm not gonna do that. Like when are we ever all gonna be in Europe
yep,
and like scrimming Australia again? You know,
yep,
so like yeah, I think the boot camp was a value. I think at the event it was like I think it really sucked that we came up during COVID and we hadn't played like even a domestic LAN before that.
yep.
I actually think it was like it would have been significantly easier, and I think the next time we played LAN, we played a lot better
You learn
um
things, right?
because of that LAN experience. Yeah.
Mm, mm.
I don't even think it's that crazy different. It's the first one, like there's a decent chance, at least there's a decent chance like you just played like way worse than usual.
Yeah,
Like maybe 50-50, but when there's all four of you are taking 50-50s, if one person's playing bad, you just lose. And
yep,
there was like multiple of us.
yep.
So yeah.
All right. Well, moving on then, and this is where I sort of alluded to this a little bit earlier, right? With Roflko and Brace, you guys have had this bromance for a long time, and this is the point where that bromance finally ends, and Apocdud and Roflko are both removed. So, why is it these two? Obviously, you mentioned was it just because of the way that they played overseas? Because I feel like this must have been hard, right? Because you guys have played together for such a long time. You were mates, etc., etc. Gone through trials and tribulations. He gets banned. He comes back. It's happy times. You qualify your first international event together, and boom! Now you have to, I assume, cut Roflko and obviously Apocdud as well, to pick up Vexite and Valiance. So first of all, I want to know like what was it like removing the two players? Then we can talk about adding the two.
Oh, this like sucked. This was like easily one of the hardest things like
Mm.
I had to do for sure. Um, I mean both players just because of Tom worked, April Dudley worked like so hard the whole time, and it was like, sorry, sorry, I got a bit of block noise. It was like really hard to like. I've never had to cut someone who was putting in like as much work, or maybe even like more work than me. Who was putting in like a ton of work. And usually like a big problem we've had with like some players is like work ethic.
Mm.
Um, but that wasn't a problem with Tom. It was like uh yeah, like anyway, we ended up like removing Apocdud, and then with James, it was just rough. Like I think if there was a decent chance we could have kept on playing with James. It was just that we could make like the perfect team
Mm.
in our eyes at the time. Um, but it sucked because James knows. Me and James could tell like in like the tones of our voices like when something's happening, and like exactly like I don't know, just because it's spending so much time around each other, we have like we know what's going on even though we don't talk about something. And James knew after that game that uh like changes were going to be made, and but like we couldn't talk. Oh, I think at the time I didn't want to talk about it in person, which I think was a mistake. I think we should have just addressed it.
Mm.
But we had to stay in Europe for another like 4 days, and like we know changes are happening, and I think James 100% knew, and I was like, it just sucked. Like, I think this was one of the ones where I think even getting Liam, I was pretty like cutthroat. Uh, and like the person doesn't deserve to get cut, but it's like for the rest of the team, like it's like we need to do this, and if it benefits everyone else, and like I also think it's like a lot of the time with a lot of these moves, it's like we can't let someone else get this player. Um, or if we don't like start getting results, like what if like an org doesn't want us? Like
Yep.
what if like we can't play as much as we can? Like you need to protect the team. Um, and I think a lot of the time it feels bad because it benefits me. Um, but I think my job is to try and make like the best team
Mhm.
we can. So yeah, like we told James, yeah, I always it sucks, but I always had to be one to tell people. So I think I just called both of them and just explained the situation. It was just like it happened so fast. Um, after the matches, like we knew what was happening. Um, and just with how good of friends we were, like we're like breaking that apart basically. Um, and no one necessarily like yeah. Again, like I said, it was like it's just rough because we had to cut people who weren't they didn't have like a clear flaw.
Yeah.
Which was fucking with the team. I think like that's true for like Tom, sorry, Apocdud, Roflko, and Addict. Like, all the times they got cut, like they didn't deserve to. It was just like it was a beneficial player adding to the team.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Every time I hear a player talking about like cutting people from a team and making changes, or it literally always sounds like breaking up a relationship. Like when someone gets
yeah,
broken up with, it's like one person is like, "Hey, I want to break up." The other person's like, "No, please, I want to stay." And then ultimately, it's like, "Well, what can you do at that point?" Like once the decision is made, the decision is made, and there's no coming back from the point where that decision is made. So, unfortunate as
yeah,
it is for Apocdud and Roflko, they get removed. And yeah, like I said, that's kind of the end of an era because obviously you and Roflko have not played together since in a legit team. Maybe you guys have played like some lands and stuff or pugs or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's just a little bit sad, I think, just in terms of that storyline. But what makes it even a little bit more sad is the fact that Vexite and Valiance only stayed on the team for like, I don't even know how long it was, like 2-3 months, something like that. So, first of all, let's just talk about why those two players were added. You said it was you guys thought you could put together like the perfect team. This was going to be like exactly what you wanted. So you would have obviously considered both of these players a big upgrade. Was it like a 2-for-1 package? Was it like, because you've talked a lot about wanting Vexite, right? You always like, we need to get Vexite, but was it, if we get Vexite, Valiance comes as well, so we have to cut two, or was there ever like a situation where you also just definitely wanted Valiance too?
um, yeah. So just when I was talking about like always wanting backside, it's also I've also just played with him in stints like over the years.
Hmm.
And just like kind of just seen like him getting better, and I just get along. I think I actually think he can get along with literally anyone,
Hmm.
but like I always felt like I got along with him really well, and I always just liked playing with him. It was always just fun. Um, but I don't think it was necessarily a 2-for-1. We kind of realized, getting Vexite obviously like he can fulfill like this role in the team, and then we could have kept James, and he could have played like the anchor spots and like some of like one of the wing positions, but Matt was also available, and I do think I don't know. It's because I look at that roster like very much like that was like a perfect like roster at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I'm always like with the assumption like we can't get Grayhound players.
Yep.
I think immediately I think well I kind of have to. I kind of had to think I'm the best caller. Um, otherwise like we're just like not gonna win. Like you need to like have confidence in yourself. I think Jordy was like again like it's just someone I've played with for a long time. I thought he was like really good upper. So I was like we got like that unlock. Liam's like doing like real like as a lurker. Um, like if you're not like getting Leah, it's like Liam is like who you want, you know. Um, and then like obviously like bringing like Vexite in is like definitely like one of the best players in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Like it was, I think it was like pretty clearly like a top 2 player. Um, like him and Ins, like not counting like Dexter and like
Sure.
the others, whatever.
Exports.
Um, but yeah, and then for Matt, he just like he made the team like he like filled it like perfect,
Mhm.
like playing anchor spots. I think him and like Hazard, like they're both like really good on CT. But I think what made Matt so perfect was he also played the wings. So me and Declan could play the pack on every map,
Mhm.
and then we had those two playing wings. And then on CT, me and Declan could play rotators, and then Liam and Matt play anchors. It was like perfect in like in terms of roles. Everyone was playing where they're comfortable, and for that reason, I think we just instantly could play like just like even without like adding too much structure, it felt like really like good to play.
Mhm.
And I just think like in general, like the team vibe was like quite good as well. I mean, it was really important to me after obviously like losing James, like someone like Vexite, he just like makes the team happy basically. And it kind of like is like someone who can like help me in that. Um, and I actually think throughout playing with like both both of them, but like specifically Matt, just because I'd never played with him before, I never even talked to him or considered like I'd ever be on a team with him. Um, I think Matt was like one of the best teammates I've ever had for sure.
Mm.
Like individually he's insane. He like always has like um good comms, like he's like never tilting. He's like making like really good decisions. I feel like which is like really underrated. Like he's just like not making like mistakes or like not making that many mistakes, which I feel like is a big thing for a lot of Australian players. Like he's not making too many unforced errors is
Mm.
like how I started to call it at that time. Um and he was just like very calm when we played, and it always just like his one like attribute which like I really like about Matt was I don't think he made like too many big decisions for the team, but he could always tell when like we just needed to like freeze him around and like calm down him and make a plan. And he didn't like put that like onus on himself. I'm not sure how much he's thinking about this stuff as well, and how much it like it is how he is. But it always just be like freeze, boys, calm, 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 and then like it would let like one of us like make a call for a round.
Mm.
Um, he's also just like an incredible clutcher. It was like it really sucked like when we lost Matt. To be honest, I thought he was like a really good player.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
interesting to hear because, like, I think Valiance in particular is a underrated individual. Like, people, like, in any of his teams that he's been in, he's never been like quote unquote the big player, the star player, the player that people really talk about a lot. But you know, obviously, you valued him a lot, so it's good to hear your thoughts on that. But as we know, things didn't go well for this roster. It very quickly just sort of blew up. I suppose in Vexite's position, what I this is my assumption as far as what the catalyst was for this implosion. I don't know if implosion is the right word, but whatever. I assume Vexite gets an offer from Grayhound. In his position, you don't say no to an offer like that, very obviously. And so he goes, and then Valiance is obviously out as well at that point for whatever reason. And so within the space of like less than 6 months, I think it was closer to 2 to 3 months, you've gone from kicking two of your good friends and a team that was like going quite well to in theory upgrading to in theory now being -2 players again and having to start from square one. So talk me through this whole period and how this all sort of played out, how you learned about, you know, these two players leaving and what that meant for you and your team.
Yeah, so just before as well, so when we made the cut to get Vexite Valiance,
Mm.
there was only like one more event before the player break.
Right. Yep.
Um, so I was actually like, I'm not gonna add like a bunch of like strats which people are just gonna forget over. I don't think I would have forgotten them, but I was like, I'm not gonna add a bunch of shit now, which we used to do. I would just like talk to just in general, like, uh, this is like, I think at the time I called it like decision forks. And I was like, on like T side, like this is like common like decision points we need to make. Like if we're like 4v5, like what's good? Like how do we want to play our 5v4s? Like if we're in the pack and like we hear, oh sorry, like if we're like all grouped it somewhere and like we hear them get info in another place, like what do we want to do most of the time? And we just had like default like decision reactions on both sides. Um, and then we were just like scrimming and kind of just like getting used to playing against each other. And then we played like the qual for Dreamhack Melbourne,
Mhm.
and then like we won that, and we felt like really confident after that win. Even I think we actually like lost some maps to Encore, but like I think team confidence was like super high after that event. And it felt really good. And we felt like if we obviously like again, like you have to be confident if you're like someone in my position. But like we felt like this is a roster like we can fucking beat Renegades for sure. Like
Right.
not consistently, and like obviously they've been number one for ages. But you have to think like in my head, I still think like probably could have fucking beaten them. Just with like how perfect like the team setup was.
Mhm.
But we win the qualifier. We go into a player break. And then I'm not exactly sure what the timeline was, but Matt had some like personal issues, which mean like he needed to change his living situation, and he couldn't play. Basically, like he was gonna start becoming a chef, from memory.
Mhm.
Um, and then so he left, and then 24 hours, Declan gets the offer from Grayhound, and that was just like uh, that was like pretty fucking heartbreaking, to be honest. Like to go because it was really rough having to like cut our friends from a previous team,
Mm.
and like the one like thing to like hang on to was like this is like an insane team. Like this is like one of like I think it would have been one of the best like Australian teams. Like in my like maybe like Greyhound or Renegades, whichever they were, like would have been better. But like in my head, and I think in a lot of people's heads at the time, we were like, we're gonna be Renegades.
Mm.
Like we're like we can like become that team. We can like actually challenge consistently. And like even though we never played them, like we never had any like basis for this. We didn't even swim them. But that's just like what we thought. Um and then we go from having like a team of like perfect roles and like the best like actually like the best 5 players you can have outside of Greyhound to then being like we need to find 2 players. Um and we've just like fucked over all of our friends, and now like yeah, yeah, like you were saying with like the breaking up thing when you remove someone from a team, it's like a breakup and you're firing someone at the same time.
Yeah.
Like it's like yeah, it's like really
You're
yeah,
essentially saying to them
pretty rough.
like, and I know this is not what you're actually saying to them, but the way that it ends up being is like, I don't want to be friends with you anymore, and I'm going to take away your livelihood, and maybe you don't get to do this career anymore ever again, because like if you don't end up in
Yeah.
another team which is salaried, sorry, you're out. That is what it is. So it's like a triple whammy almost of
Yeah.
betrayal. Not betrayal. It's not a betrayal, but like that's what it would feel like on the receiving end. I'm sure. But yeah, look, obviously, not an ideal scenario for you guys to have to deal with, but I think the extra issue on top of that was that you'd obviously already qualified for DreamHack Melbourne, so you didn't even have a very long amount of time necessarily to find and integrate players back into your roster. So the team that you ultimately ended up actually playing DreamHack Melbourne with was yourself, PZ, Malta, Blitz, and Addict, obviously. So
Yeah.
the first one that you instantly go back to, and I remember reading this in a Snowball article, was Addict, and you said Addict was the first person we approached after his stint on Aftershock. He's taking a lot more initiative. So here again is that word sort of popping up. So he is someone that you obviously respected from having played with before, and like maybe time had healed that wound enough. Like you never obviously went back to Apocdud and Roflko. I assume at that time Apocdud had already moved on to, I believe it was DGG at the time.
Yeah.
So he might have already been locked down. I don't remember where Roflko ended up, but why go back to Addict as opposed to anyone
So
else?
yeah, so it was actually Matt who told us he couldn't play first, and for those 24 hours, uh, where we're like super depressed, Matt was leaving. We're like, you should like we can like wait. Like if you need like a month, like we'll just wait.
Mm.
Um, but we also he was like I'm out. I'm like okay, like we go to Christian for sure. Um, because I do think um at that role which they were gonna fill within the team, I do think they are both really really good. I don't think I think Christian has some things he does better than Matt, and I think Matt has some things he does better than Christian. But I do think they're both best in role. I think they're the closest for sure. Like 1 and 2. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think yeah, I think they're both like really, really good players. Like they make like limited mistakes. They both have really good attitude. I think Christian's more like hype for the team. Matt's more like has more of like a calming presence, and he has like a little bit more. I don't really like experience, but like he has more impact on like how the team is playing. maybe at that time. Now Christian plays like a different role, but he has more impact on how the team is playing, whereas Christian has more impact on like how like the team atmosphere is.
Mhm.
Um, so like we go to Christian, and that's when we still thought we're gonna get Vexite, but it was like tough because I was the one who had to message Addict, and like I've like you're saying, I've done like the breakup fire with him, and then the team has just started qualifying for like all the spots. So he's put in all this work. He just like sees his old team like going overseas,
Yeah.
and you have to like he had to hate me, like
Maybe a
for
little
sure,
bit.
because I've like fired him. I think like especially just because I was the one who did it. I was the one who made the decision.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was like he was like, I'm not sure, like we
Can I
he came
trust you?
around.
Does he say, "Can I trust you? Like, are you gonna kick me again?"
Well, it was kind of like that. It was like you kind of fucked me last time. Like
Yeah.
I forget exactly what the conversation was, but he did turn around within a day when he thought we had Vexite. Um, but I
I
think
see.
if he wasn't playing with like Ricky,
Mm.
like there was like a decent chance. Like, and I think me and Christian like way better friends than we have ever have been now. Um, and we get along like really well again. But yeah, there was a chance if he was on order, for example, and then I like tried to like or like an order style team, and
Right.
I tried to get him. I don't know if I could have convinced him to rejoin
Yeah.
like our team, but I think as well the other thing was he was best friends with like really close with PZ. Like
Mm.
if me and James are very close, oh sorry, me and Roflko are very close. Like Addict and PZ have always been the same.
Right.
So we get him, and also one thing which might not be that public, but Blitz was our coach.
Yep.
Not for the Vexite Valiance roster because we needed like budget for players. Um, but he was our coach for a long time, and it was someone who I thought was like thought about the game really well. So we actually got him as a player. Um, and we wanted like the idea was I know it sounds like insane now. But we were kind of desperate at the time. But uh Addict was gonna replace like Valiance and like play like that role, and we were gonna try have Blitz play like a Vexite's role, and we knew he wasn't gonna have the same output like for sure. But like we thought he could play it in like a smart way. And as a coach, he was really good. I think as like Blitz was someone who is like really good at learning stuff and like developing a system to learn stuff. And that's saying like I think our relationship is and the team's relationship with him like soured to a pretty insane extent.
Mm.
But that's something like I'll definitely like take forward for the rest of my life. Like
Yeah.
I think I'll always remember like how we like build systems to learn because I think that's something like Pete was just oh sorry Blitz was just really good at like learning stuff and like anything he put his mind to like he could like learn it
Yep.
and like faster than other people. But we get both of those two and they agree to play. They agree to both join the team and they agree to play Dreamhack Melbourne. And basically Blitz was doing so bad um in scrims, we kind of like we had to like swap some of the spots because we're just gonna get fucked
Mm.
in the event. And then Peach is like I don't want to play anymore. Which is fine. It was pretty the kind of vibe was like he was gonna get cut after Dreamhack Melbourne.
Yep.
Because I don't think me and Liam specifically would have played for him if we knew he was gonna be that different as a player compared to a coach.
Right.
Um I think as a player oh, so just when he came back, I think it had just been too long. As a coach, I think he still like had like a good mind for the game. As a player, individually, he was really weak and was making like really bad decisions. Like
Hmm.
if he was coaching him, he would be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Um, but there was a chance like Blitz was just gonna refuse to play DreamHack Melbourne. Like a really like he wasn't gonna play until 3 days before the event.
Hmm.
Um, and because of how the roster signups work for these big events, if he didn't play, the whole team couldn't play DreamHack Melbourne.
Yep.
And that was like, to be honest, oh, I didn't realize how big Dreamhack Melbourne was going to be. Like with a crowd, I
I
didn't
don't think
think
most
as
people
many people
did.
would have come.
Most people didn't.
Nah,
Yeah.
but there was a chance we just wouldn't have got to play at all. And that was like peak uh like depression. Like again, like everything building up. Like we qualified for this event with like our like
Yep.
the god roster at the time, and then Pete's gonna fucking take it all away from us because he's like shit at playing rotators now. Like I don't know, it was pretty tough.
Yeah. Like in hindsight, it looked like the right move actually was not make the changes at all. anticipate maybe that Vexite was going to get a Grayhound offer and just continue with the previous roster that you had. And then by the time Dreamhack Melbourne rolls around, you've still got that core five that, is still pretty good and probably still one of the top teams in ANZ. But anyway, obviously you make all those changes. You play through this Dreamhack Melbourne, which seemed like a bit of a curse event. We had even heard like prior to that the issues were happening. I think that, again, there was a Snowball article where you basically said there was a real chance that at the start of the week that we would not be able to attend Dreamhack. You quoted in that, but ultimately you did play. It didn't really like amount to a whole lot. I don't even think that there's that much to really touch on when it comes to Dreamhack, but I thought there was like a couple of individual moments where, like, I think Addict in particular, people sort of took a look at and said, he had a pretty good map or game or event or something like that. I seem to remember, but yeah, I don't think that there was too much there that was like super necessary to like break down in detail. But I want to move forward because obviously, you very quickly then went on to another international qualifier, and this was the Fortress OCE Masters, and this is where Forleks comes into the picture as well. And this was a pretty interesting period when we were watching Vertex, and you guys were playing down in Melbourne at Fortress, and you, for the first time ever, and I think first time and only time actually, beat Grayhound in any kind of qualifier in a best of 3. So you got the 2-1 in the grand final on the stage with Forleks, who had only just recently joined the team to stand in for Blitz. And if I remember rightly at the time, there was very much a conversation of, okay, he is just a stand-in. He is not like the fifth member of the team, but obviously what happens, happens. You qualify to go overseas with Forleks as well. But talk to me about beating Grayhound on the stage, because first of all, this must be a pretty big moment for you guys because you've played against Grayhound. You've always been second fiddle to Grayhound / Renegade / whatever for pretty much the entirety of your career. You finally get the dub over them, and you finally get to go and play overseas instead of them. But there was obviously conversations around poor setup. It wasn't exactly the ideal setup for an event, this and that. There was issues. How did that affect you? Did that affect you at all? Or do you think that, you weren't super bothered by that?
So yeah, oh yeah, the first thing with like Forleks, yeah, so we were like trialing him. It was like there was no clear player we should pick up. And I've always had pretty, I don't know if it's lucky, but I think I'm pretty good at scouting players sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I found Geordie, oh sorry, I found like PZ, Addict, and like Forleks from like basically like seeing they had like some good performance, and then watching their games, I'm like, yeah, this guy can actually be good. But a lot of people have good performances, but when I watch, like, they're just like going like hunting frags, they're not making good decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so like we're playing with like Forleks, and I think even for the qualifier for this event, for some reason I was back home seeing family in Sydney, um, and I had to play. Oh yeah, so for the qualifier, so we didn't have to play Greyhound first day. Um, my team was playing with 2 stand-ins. They were playing with like Valhalla instead of me because I was in
That's right.
Sydney,
Yeah.
and then they were playing with Forlex, but they almost lost to PDG.
Mm.
Um, and I was like, just getting message from all my teammates like, we need you here, like we need you to go. Because I think it's like no, I think if I'm not there, like I think there's no like natural caller.
Yep.
Um, so I'm getting all these messages. I'm like, okay, I've got to go drive to Falcon's house in Sydney and go play from his setup. So then I go there, and then I go play this like Fortress game against the Encore with like Azar and Grat
Yep.
um on Vertigo. And this is just when they were like, we've always thought we could just demolish them on Vertigo, but when they got Azar and Grat, they like, I think they beat Greyhound, or they kept on getting really close with Greyhound, and Greyhound would always like dominate us on Vertigo.
Yeah.
Um, but I was like, fuck it, like we play Vertigo today, like we play against Encore. Like these guys always like suck. I just wanted to know if we could beat them on it a little bit. And I also thought they like Licky was such a big part of their Vertigo specifically, and without Licky, I was like, I don't like, they haven't had that much practice. I know they've done well against Greyhound, but I think we can beat them. So we go in, we play this best of 1 against Encore, and both of us were gonna make the land, like no matter what, like realistically. But whoever wins, doesn't play Grayhound first round, and whoever loses has to play Grayhound first day. So we didn't really like think about it too much because like the situation was so cursed for the
Mm,
team,
mm.
like me having to come in. But it was a pretty big win, winning that Vertigo game. So then we go through and we play Rooster first day. I think we have like a really good track record against Rooster. And he's saying it now after we lost 2 Pro Leagues
Up,
against
up,
him.
up until recently,
Doesn't go
yeah.
as well. But I think if you look at it head to head, just like best of threes,
Yep,
and you can say like they don't have a full roster, but like we can only really beat who's in front of us. Like we're
sure.
beating their full roster a lot of times. So we beat them on LAN. It's pretty easy. And then we go in the next day, and I think some people in Greyhound they just had like they weren't having like the best morning or best day.
Mm.
Um, but I also think playing on a scuff setup or like playing under circumstances which aren't normal, our team is I don't know. I always like to just be like, guys, like we can only control like how we react to it. Like both teams are playing on the same thing. We just need to be less affected by it than the
Mm.
other team, and it's a competitive advantage for us.
Yeah, I think
Um,
there's definitely an argument there because like Greyhound would be far more used to going to top tier events and just having everything be perfect, whereas you guys were still only, you'd only been to a couple of top events, so you're not. I
yeah,
feel
it's
like
our second LAN or
yeah,
something.
you don't have it
Yeah.
like drilled in that this needs to be like this and that needs to be like that, etc.
Yeah, I definitely like there were like players on our team which were like this is fucked, and I'm like, guys, like we don't talk about it. We just like do the best we can.
Mm.
Like I'm not expecting everyone to like play like they're at home, but don't complain about it. Their team will be complaining about it. It'll make like every other team worse. And it wasn't specifically for Greyhound; it was for every team at the event because
Sure.
we knew it was gonna be scuffed. Um, but yeah, Forleks as well is just like he like did like really well. So like how we ended up running the team was I was in the pack, and no matter what would happen, I would just be like, Marvin, your job is to trade me or trade Liam every round. Um, but it was even that series. I think we picked us too because we've been doing really well on dust and scrims, and we knew we had no prac, so we couldn't win strategically. So we picked us too. Um, and then I think actually the game was closer than it looked, but I think we just had like a really rough start. Like Ali was playing really well map one, or
Mm.
like getting a lot of off kills at the start of the game. But we lose like 16-12 dust 2, and we're like, all right, fuck. Like we're going into like Mirage next series. And I think we just hadn't played Mirage with like for like a while. There was a lot of rosters where we didn't practice Mirage because our CT, like I could just like microwave a CT, and then on T side, I feel like I was a pretty good Mirage caller, um, in general on T side. So there was a lot of yeah.
Love the autofocus.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of times where we just wouldn't practice like T-side Mirage. So we go into Mirage, we're like, we're pretty like fucked here, but like let's just do our best. We end up just like dominating them on Mirage. Like we played like pretty like we called like a pretty good CT Mirage, I feel like. And then I think Addict and Jordy were just playing like really well. Like we were getting kills in mid when like the AWP was like doing something like on one of the wings.
Mm.
And then when we were doing triple fights mid was owning, and then there were rounds where we was playing like AWP solo somewhere and we're like just stacked for the other side. Um and it kind of just works. So we win Mirage, but when we go into Nuke and like in the break, we like all go to the toilet and back, but I had to teach like Forleks how to throw all these smokes.
Right.
And like we haven't played Nuke with Addict, or like we haven't played Nuke with Addict that much. So I'm like, all right, like on this strat we do this, I was like, we do this. Um and then I actually think Will was coaching us, YourWombat
Yep.
was coaching us this event.
Mm.
And I think we won like pistol and we won like first gun round. And then it's like he just takes attack pause. It's like Toby, you got a micro round because he's like he knew like we were so on at this point.
Yeah.
Like when we won the pistol and first gun round, we just need to win one more gun round, and like we can actually like we can win this game.
Hmm.
And then I think we go up like I'm not sure exactly, but it felt like we went up like 5-1 or something. And when we lost like 2 gun rounds, I mean I think we like eco them, like full Glock them, because like Leah's like right clicked his M4,
Oh.
and then I think Ali like repeaked hell or something. And then like we end up like basically like snowballing like a nuke win with no prac after that, which is pretty cool. Um, yeah, that was definitely like that was a big event for us. I think before that event, I was like, oh, not even. I think when we got Vexite and Balance, we stopped like we couldn't really look up to Grayhound or like Renegades players the same way because we're trying to be competitive with them.
Yep.
But in the past, we were like very like, how these guys play is like so sick. Like we should like be like them. Like a lot of the teams, it was like we wanted to like kind of emulate like that like very defaulty style. Which I think wasn't the smartest thing at the time, but it was like I don't know, it was I understand like why I made the decision. Um, but yeah, like at this like when we got Vexite Valiance, like we stopped at like we had to be like, all right, we can fucking beat these guys. Like we had to like kind of pick a player and be like, that guy's shit. Like we can beat these guys, like for sure. Like these guys aren't that good. And then like we go to the land, we kind of still have that like same like mentality. But like being able to like actually beat them and even like win a map on land, it was like pretty sick because we never got to play like a national LAN.
A Nat Champs.
And
What do they
yeah,
call
and
it?
that champs.
Nationals. Win a Nats. Win a Nats. That's what everyone says.
Yeah,
Win a
yeah,
Nats.
win a
You
Nats.
never played a
Yeah,
Nats.
so yeah, never played in that. So it's pretty cool to be able to win it.
Mm.
But yeah, that's it.
There you
Good
go.
event.
All right, and then from following on from that, you go over and you play in the Blast Premier Fall American Showdown, where you play one best of 3. You lose to OO Nation, and then that's that. So talk to me about traveling all the way to NA to play one best of 3. Like, does it feel like a bit of a waste of time at that point?
I feel like pretty robbed that event. I feel like that lineup. I think I made a bad decision changing the lineup after that event. Because we lost like one best of 3 to 0-0 Nation, which isn't like the best. But it was also like our first game. It's like as like our first game there. And we didn't know coaches could talk until like halfway through. So like they could have had like a full coach
Right.
like just coming the whole time. And just like in that boot camp, it was like an American boot camp, but we were like very we felt like it was going like really well. Playing in America. And we felt like if it was like a lower bracket, not saying we're gonna go through and win the whole thing, but I felt like that was one of the events like where we like definitely felt like we could have beaten EG and some of the other teams. Just of playing against them and like watching their demos. And I think like the style we're playing was like a little bit better than we were playing at some points this year as well. In that time period, I think we had like a pretty good understanding of the meta. And our players were playing like good individually. So like it just sucked, but we didn't even get to like we lost to 0-0 Nation, who like just had like a close game against Liquid at like a pro league or something. So like their like stock was that was before their stock went to shit, basically.
Right.
And we felt like, oh fuck, like we lost like one of the best teams in the call, and now we just fly home. But it was still cool. It was another event we got to bring like YourWombat over. And we kind of like after that we just treated it like as a Mexican holiday. Like we're just going around. Like we'll probably never go to like Monterey again. So it's just like a cool to be able to be with your friends and like see a place you'll never be able to go.
Yeah, I've had a lot of experiences like that in esports where I'm like, I never really thought I would go to Mongolia, but now I'm here.
Yeah, same.
Or vice versa.
I was just like,
why am I here?
Now I'm trying to get some cashmere. Like,
Yeah,
fuck it. Like, might as well enjoy it.
Yeah.